Tamagotchi was one of the biggest fads ever in the 90s, and it was purely a fad. Its popularity lasted less than a year, but good God, during its height, it was in demand. For the uninitiated, Tamagotchi were these little keychain LCD electronic toys that basically serve as a digital pet. They go to sleep, need to be fed, bathed, and play games with in real time all day. It was released by Bandai Toys in Japan in 1996 and everywhere else in 1997. And of course they exploded in popularity as this was hot off the heels of the original Pokemon games. Those things were more in demand than amiibos are these days. It was insane. So they made a Game Boy version of it less than a year later. I honestly never knew anyone who had this. By the time the game came out, everyone had already moved on and forgotten about Tamagotchi. So did I, in fact. I found this while I was cleaning the closet. This game is our first taste into the lore of the Tamagotchi. You see, one fateful night, a spacecraft carrying the beloved Tamagotchi was flying through space, and it crashed onto Earth. And that's it, I guess. The Game Boy version of Tamagotchi expands quite a bit over the keychain toys, such as being able to take care of 3 Tamagotchi at once. With that many available, I chose to do a sort of controlled experiment with them. The first egg is a Tamagotchi that I'm going to take care of to the best of my ability, named Jum Jum. The second egg is a Tamagotchi that I'm going to make as fat as possible and constantly feed him things, named Glubs. And finally, the last Tamagotchi is one that I'm going to completely neglect until his inevitable death, named PBG. Let's begin. Jum Jum and Glubs are born as tiny black blobs, and PBG is born as a little white blob. Taking care of a Tamagotchi basically means keeping all of their little meter things maxed out, like The Sims. And to the game's credit, it expands a lot on what the keychain originals offered. For example, instead of only a single food option to feed them with, you have 3: bread, meat, and a vegetable. And the Tamagotchi now have different favorites and dislikes. It also changes how fat they get. I fed Jum Jum a healthy amount of his favorite, I fed Glubs as much meat as possible, and I gave PBG nothing. There are also now 2 different snacks you can feed them instead of just one: ice cream and cake. I don't really know the difference between them, other than they make the Tamagotchi happy and even fatter, without filling their food meter. I force-fed Glubs a bunch of snacks since they make him happy, and that way I don't have to play with them. That's the other major part of taking care of a Tamagotchi: playing with them. The video game version retains the exact same game that the keychains had, a rousing game called Left or Right. The Tamagotchi will look either left or right. You have to guess what it'll be. That's it. That's the Tamagotchi idea of fun from whatever stupid planet they're from. It's completely random, and no amount of timing or prediction can help. Eventually, I just mashed a single direction and the A button to get it over with as fast as possible and hope for the best. If for some reason you don't guess at least 3 of the 5 times correctly, your Tamagotchi gets super pissed at you. Sorry I can't read your mind, Jum Jum! This stupid game is the only way to raise their fun meter, aside from snacks. The other games fill their other stats, body and IQ. The body game has the Tamagotchi hopping back and forth on rocks to catch falling baseballs. It has 3 difficulties, basically increasing the minimum you have to catch to succeed. And this is way harder than it looks. You actually have input over this, allowing you to make them jump. But you have to be so precise in catching the baseball. There are numerous times where they clearly make it in time and it doesn't count. And when you go from one end to the other, you have the tiniest window of success. It's really obnoxious. Aside from raising their body meter, this game also helps Tamagotchi lose weight. This means Glubs didn't play this game at all. The IQ game tasks the Tamagotchi with solving math problems, and they react as how anyone would when faced with basic arithmetic. They go into a complete panic. Increasing the difficulty makes the math problem slightly harder, but still basic enough that any second grader can do it. I'm not entirely sure you can help your Tamagotchi during these. I kept pushing the direction of the right answer on the D-pad, but I really don't know if it works or not. And that doesn't always translate when there are a ton of answers on screen. Whatever, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Aside from all of that, there is one thing about Tamagotchi care that is rather infamous. Something that you have to take care of rather frequently. Poop! Several times a day, your little monster thing will poop. This was hilarious when you're like 10 years old and a tiny virtual monster poops on your keychain. No, who am I kidding? It's still funny now. When they poop, you select the toilet button to flush everything on screen. Glubs pooped the most, on account of constantly being force-fed all the time. And despite having 0 actual food in his system, PBG also pooped. Rather impressive, I must say. During the first day, because of his great care and excellent life, Jum Jum did it. He evolves. He goes from being a little black blob to a slightly larger white blob. Okay, this is pretty much the main draw of Tamagotchi. Before the internet existed, people kept playing these to see what kind of creature their Tamagotchi would eventually evolve into. That's also part of this experiment. I want to see what differences in evolution there would be with 3 different levels of care. But then, it happened. The first Tamagotchi died. Shockingly, it was Glubs. I think he got a stomachache or something from all the snacks he was eating and I didn't cure it in time. When a Tamagotchi dies, the game forces you to watch as a heart meter sound comes to a halt. Jesus, game! A little too real, don't you think? Go, little angel wings. Bring Glubs' tubby butt to the sky, where he will be forever remembered. On this graveyard screen next to whatever kid had this before me. Gonna be honest though, I'm kind of glad Glubs died. The game becomes way more manageable with 2 Tamagotchi instead of 3. When I had 3, I was constantly switching screens and frequently making sure that they're doing alright. And since I was always in menus or minigames, the in-game time barely progressed. It takes about 5 real minutes for an in-game hour to pass. Getting through the first day took twice as long as it normally does because of the constant switching in menus. 3 Tamagotchi was simply too much. Even 2 is a little more than I would like. Well, 1.5. You know, because of the neglect and all. Still, I'm rather shocked that one of my Tamagotchi died on the very first day. Oh well! One of the smartest things this game allows is the passage of time at night. Rather than having to wait 5 minutes per hour at night just to play again, you can skip ahead when all of your Tamagotchi are asleep. This was pretty much necessary, as no Game Boy can last through a day and night on 4 AA batteries. So, good on them for that. And when the morning sun came, tragedy struck once more. There was another Tamagotchi death. And this time, it was PBG. And he died as he had lived, surrounded by his own poop. Also, for some reason, when he died, PBG's name got changed to PBG With only Jum Jum remaining, this is when the game is most manageable. With just him, time can pass at its quickest to get to the next days, and I'm barely in minigames or menus. The trade-off to this is that it's boring. Once Jum Jum is maxed out on his care, I can't really do anything else until he needs something again. This means sitting and watching for anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes, hoping he needs something from me so that I can, play the game. In fact, this makes the Game Boy version worse than the keychain one. See, with the keychain version, you can check on it whenever you want throughout the day, rather than having to set aside time just to check on your pet. With the Game Boy version, though, you basically just have to leave your Game Boy version on and stare at it, waiting for something to happen. Wasting my batteries. This game isn't very fun, is it? Almost immediately in the morning, Jum Jum evolves again! Oh, he's a Kirby. Despite evolving, Jum Jum isn't any better at the different minigames. Although, sometimes he gets sassy and I have to scold him, which somehow raises his deed meter, whatever that means. I wasn't sure what else to do at this point, but thankfully the professor is here to give you some advice when you need it. And let me tell you, it is worthless. He doesn't explain anything. Choose meals wisely. Praise or scold, depending on behavior. Remember to flash the toilet. Well, this is where I discovered that you can send Tamagotchis into contests once they hit their 3rd stage. And unlike the minigames, I know for sure I have 0 input on these contests. You really have to hope for the best. Having grown legs, I figured Jum Jum would kick ass at racing. I was wrong. He took 2nd. Don't act like this is my fault, Jum Jum! I got really bored, so I drew a new background. That's it. Since the racing contest didn't go too well for him, I figured Jum Jum is a handsome enough alien thing to do a beauty pageant. This has Tamagotchis do a randomly selected pose and they get scored off of it from completely unknown criteria. Jum Jum took center stage and chose to go with the same face I make when I poop look. Oh, that's weird, Jum Jum. That didn't make you win. Despite Despite his failures, I still took plenty good care of Jum Jum. And it was worth it, because by the end of the day, he once again began to evolve. This time becoming a sperm. How did this happen? Where did I go wrong? How is it that he somehow lost appendages? True to life, if you can't be athletic, if you can't be pretty, you might as well try to be smart. There's only one contest I haven't put Jum Jum into yet, and that's knowledge. I figured we'd actually study up for this, and I had him do some math minigames beforehand to start. And it seems like a good thing I did, as that's the entire contest. It has 2 matches. The first is a bit easier, which Jum Jum was able to get all of the answers correct. In the second half, Jum Jum once again managed to get every answer right. So yes, in the knowledge contest, Jum Jum took first. This actually does something too. Winning any contest unlocks a sound test. This is so much fun, you guys. From here, all I can really do is keep taking care of Jum Jum. I keep feeding him, playing with him, putting him into contests. Wait, what's this home option? I don't remember that being there before. Did this bring you back to the home screen or? Wait, what? What is Jum Jum? No! Well, whoops. I accidentally shot Jum Jum the sperm off into space on a rocket. I'd like to think that he somehow manages to land on the planet of Haven and Hearth, where he goes on to father Jum Jum Jr. Yeah, sure, that's canon now. I'm kind of bummed that I accidentally ended the game early, but at the same time, this is the best possible send-off for Jum Jum. If I would have kept playing, I would have just kept doing the same boring stuff over and over again until he probably died. And I wouldn't really have any fun doing it. That's why my final rating for this game is a piece of Tamagotchi poop out of 10. The areas that they expanded upon are great. More food options, more games, the different contests. That's a great way to flesh out the original idea. But putting it onto the Game Boy made the concept worse. I didn't feel like I had a virtual pet that was with me every minute of the day. I had a virtual piece of crap that stunk up the place, and I had to take care of it. The whole thing didn't translate over very well. If I take time out of my day to take out a Game Boy and play with Tamagotchi, I want to be actively playing Tamagotchi, not waiting around all the time for something to happen so I can push like 4 buttons. It isn't engaging enough to be a video game, and frankly, it stinks. And to be fair, this endeavor wasn't a complete loss or anything. I got a nice story out of it. And I got to do something that most guys can only dream of doing. I shot a sperm into space! Hey, wow, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos when they come out, be sure to click on my homemade subscribe button up there. Or if you want to follow me on social media for immediate updates, be sure to check out my Twitter and my Facebook. I also recommend watching the video I did on Haven and Hearth. That way you can learn more about the adventures of Jum Jum, and therefore Jum Jum Jr. See you next time!